apparently a parasite that causes frogs to grow extra legs?
Yes. So this was discovered in the US in the 60s, I believe, and it's the intermediate host of the parasite is frogs. So it infects a snail first, then a frog, and then a water bird such as a heron. And so the frogs eat the snails. The parasites enter the tadpoles or the young frogs. They grow extra legs, and because of that, they're more liable to predation by herons and other bird predators that you find in wetlands, and then the parasite can enter those birds and complete their life cycle. So yes, there's a great documentary and a great book on this very subject, and I believe they're both titled "The Plague of Frogs." Uh, and yeah, it's interesting to just look at how the scientific discourse and the thought process of these people that were studying these frogs went, because went from looking at nuclear fallout and environmental waste to parasites very quickly after everything else checked out to be pretty okay. But obviously when it comes to those sorts of environmental contaminants, amphibians are quite susceptible, because they absorb everything through their skin. And yes, it's one of those things that I guess if you were studying this for the first time, it must have been very daunting. But like with Kitrid, it's great to know what's going on, so we can try to do something in the future to mitigate it. And thankfully, we do know what's going on, and yeah, it's one of those things that it still manages to freak people out from time to time, and it's very natural. But at least we have a handle of what's going on, which helps us understand the whole natural process of everything there.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so the birds consume the frogs with the extra legs. Now what happens to the bird, you know?
So the bird, as far as I'm aware, is perfectly fine. So the parasitic worms use the stomachs of the birds as their place to breed and release their eggs, which then would end up back in the water in their feces, and then the snails eat them, and then the snails are eaten by the frogs, and that whole process continues. So the birds are unaffected in this whole process. It's just the frogs that are more susceptible to predation through the production of the extra legs, which yeah, it is quite an interesting strategy when you think about parasites, because usually they don't tend to cause their hosts to grow extra limbs or anything like that. Yes, like the cordyceps fungus, as I'm sure some of you will have known or seen with ants, they grow these huge spore-like antennae after the ants grown to the top of a climb to the top of a tree or a long blade of grass, and then releases its spores there. So there are some parasites that can affect the behavior of their animals, but not many that can change their anatomy, which I think is truly fascinating in itself.